do something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
Hello, beautiful people. Running a little bit late tonight. Do apologise. Just life, the universe and everything. Things are getting darker earlier and I'm not getting things done as soon as I should. We do hope that things like that will improve in the near future. How has your day been? I hope you've been firing through it quite well. At least around here it hasn't rained, which has been a bit of a benefit because we've had a ton of rain in the last few days and it does make life in this particular area very difficult indeed to get around and do much, and particularly with where my Starlink is situated. If it's a very cloudy day, I don't get a great deal of horizon to begin with, or horizon to horizon coverage to begin with. So on a cloudy day, depending on how thick the cloud is through the little bit of gum tree free area I can see the sky, depends on really how good it turns out for the show. So my apologies if it gets a bit crackly. That is in part one of the reasons why. I'm also using, although at the moment I'm using Starlink, so I do have a Telstra backup, but it's proving unreliable around here as well, for probably vastly different set of reasons, which we can go into at another time, because I don't want to bore the arse off you. Hoping your day's gone well. It was first in tonight. Jack, well done, mate. Nice to see you in. I haven't seen a video on YouTube from you posted up in a while. Am I not getting your notifications, or are you just not posting them? That would be the question. Gotta love the French. I'm going to talk about the French later, but let's do it now. Gotta love the French. If they can't surrender their nation to foreign enemies, then they hand it over to domestic enemies. Ain't that the truth? Well, for those of you that may not be aware, the French elections were held last week, and Ms. Le Pen's far right party, they call them far right, they're not, but certainly there are elements to it, I suppose, that are a bit more right than others. However, in the first round of elections, and isn't this interesting? They have rounds for elections. And in the first round, Le Pen's team were leading by a mile, an absolute mile. Now, in the second round, there seems to have been a complete turnaround. And the centrists and Macron's lot and the left have come back. And now it looks like it'll be essentially a hung parliament, or whatever it is that they call it in France. I find it interesting that there is a 2-vote system in France. I'm not pretending to understand it. However, wouldn't it, given what we know about voting machines and people's tendency in the last, well, any number of years to fiddle the books when it comes to that thing that we have to do every few years, then I don't find it hard to believe at all that the second round of voting in France had been tampered with. I can't prove it. Don't know anybody there's saying about it. Just looks really sus from the outside looking in. I could be 100% wrong. Maybe only half of France gets to vote one week and the other half gets to vote the other week, and those two halves are so bitterly separated that, down the middle of the country or whatever, but I can't see that that's the case. Now, of course, there's anarchy on the streets of France. They're in Paris. They're burning cars. They're looting. They're doing all those wonderful things. It does appear to be quite a great deal of immigrants as part of this as well, I think. Certainly nobody in the mainstream media footage is suggesting that it is anything to do with the immigrants. But I think the French people, I just wish I'd taken more notice in Form 1 and 2 French class, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. I can count to 10, maybe. That might have been 9 numbers. I'm not sure. And I can say, oui, monsieur, madame, bonsoir, bonjour, Veronique. I do love the way it sounds. I have no concept of what it says. But anyway, I can't get too much from the French locals because I don't understand French, and I haven't got anything that's converting video or translating video at the moment, which is not Flash. Is there a Kiwi guest in here tonight? Well, I think we've got a few Kiwis that watch the show on a reasonably regular basis. Hello to our Kiwi friends. Hello to our Canadian friends. Hello to our American friends. And g'day if our British friends, I'm not sure if they're watching now. It might be a bit early in the morning for them right now. But hello to our British friends who have made themselves known in recent times. So nice to have you back, as it turns out. So very good indeed. Harm's in, and Harm's not far from my part of the world. In fact, the plan is to be catching up with Harm in the very, very near future. So keep an eye on this space, folks. He's likely to pop up in a video. I've been having a whisper in his shell-like, and I think we have a hidden star somewhere there. So we'll see if we can't dig him out, or at least take him to lunch. We'll see how it goes. Sunflower's in the room, and lovely to see you. Vince is proudly wearing his spanner tonight. That's because I've managed to figure out which button it was to make him a moderator. I'd made him a moderator everywhere else, apparently, other than the chat where all our moderators happen to hang out. So anyway, Vince is now God moderator. I think he's got permissions to do just about everything. So be careful what you say to Vince. He can, wield a big stick, can our Vince. Hello, Sandy, you wonderful, wonderful, wonderful lady. Now, I did get your email, and I am so sorry that I haven't called you yet. Life is just getting in the way. You know how that is. But with regards to your email, all love and power to you, darling. And I will make it a priority tomorrow to call you. I hope the big red-headed bloke's doing all right, and my favourite pack of donkeys aren't doing too badly either. And folks, if you are into helping look after animals and you'd like to help the donkey sanctuary, then Sandy would be the lady to talk to about that. She's got a property with some of the most amazing, well, lovely views, but some of the most amazing animals on there. And she and her other half, Barry, care for these animals that have been deserted, left to die, left to rot. Some were left on an island. Just I don't mean one or two. I mean like 150. And there was a certain amount of well, I won't go into that, but there is a bit of a bone to pick with the RAC. I was going to say the RACV or the RACQ. Then it's the RSPCA I'm thinking of. But Sandy, if you want to post the address, the web address for the sanctuary up in the chat, I'm sure people would love to come and have a bit of a look and support you where they can. A bale of hay doesn't cost too much, folks, but it does feed a donkey for about, I have no idea, a day, half a day. I don't know. There's a lot of donkeys to feed. That's all I know. So if you can help out, please do. And Sandy, drop that. Unless I can find it here. It's difficult for me to type and talk at the same time. It gets very messy. So if you could post it up, that would be bloody awful. Or Vince, can you dig it up? Donkey Sanctuary in New South Wales for me. Maria Stratus, hello. Nice to see you in. There's back in the house. G'day, Paul. I see we have all the discerning minds in this evening. Scotty T, Anthony, Corker. Love that. Hello, Eve. I hope you're well. Scotty T, I think I said hello to you. Hello, Donna. JJ. Got most people out there, I think, that the regulars. G'day, Dusty. You're in the house too. So nice to see everybody along. It's been an interesting interesting sort of a day. I don't know how long the show will go tonight. I've got some videos lined up here to play you, but they're looking a little weird at the moment. There's been some news. Well, if you've been on Telegram and other off mainstream medias, you will have probably come across the story of Judge Helen the GMOs. I don't know whether that dropped out at your end or not. It did at mine. So she presided a case that was put forward by Julian Gillespie, QC, KC, ex-KC, and others on behalf of all Australians. But I think this was probably one of the strongest briefs in the world to be put to any judicial system. And our judicial system is very, very badly broken. First of all, let's let Julian tell us a little bit about who Helen Roth actually is, if this plays. Don't you hate that? Give me one moment here. I'm going to remove all of these videos from my studio because for some reason they've decided not to play. Now I will play them one at a time. All right, let's see this.
Hell, she's related to one of the biggest, it's called a big pharma dynasty. Like
It is.
we know the term big pharma and we usually associate that with offshore companies, but Australia's had its own big pharma dynasties reaching back into the late 1800s, early 1900s, and she's related to them.
That's right.
Related to them. But we're talking about massive wealth. It's actually called, what's one of them? It's the something fortune. So we're talking massive money, and she's also got a degree in science, which happens to be a specialty in genetics.
That's right. That was her first degree, and then she did law.
Right.
She knows better.
She knows better, all right. All right. So why is she so special? Well, let's find that out.
She was workmates with Pfizer Moderna in at least five massive cases here in this country. So she's received probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in payments. Represented Pfizer as Pfizer's, Australian Queen, and when she took part in that welcoming ceremony, which they conduct for all new judges coming on board, it was spoken about in the various speeches applauding her brilliant past. It's like, oh, and Pfizer, you and Pfizer. She was known and is known right throughout the judiciary in this country as the Pfizer Queen. That's the term I use it.
The Pfizer Queen, known throughout the judiciary, throughout the industry as the Pfizer Queen, because previously as a solicitor, an attorney, a barrister, whatever she was, barrister I suspect, she represented Pfizer in a number of cases. He says maybe as many as 5, possibly more, but she was the Pfizer representative in Australia. If you were going to have a legal case, you were going to wind up against her. And she clearly did a great job for her clients on a regular basis. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that she won every case. It just means she got the damages maybe of great wealth in this country, a lineage that dates back to the late 1800s and into the 1900s. And I suspect certain elements of it are still around today. She becomes a lawyer. She's also a scientist with a geneticist study preference, or a genetics study preference, and a geneticist qualification before studying law and going on to sit at the federal court on the bench, presiding over, well, how does the judicial system work? If you're going to submit a case, does that, like, who in the court says, all right, we're going to hear that case, or we're going to put it to that court with that judge, or who makes all those decisions? Interestingly, Julian has a great deal of input on that as well.
But all the judges like, yes, she's Pfizer's girl in this country. And when one of the hottest briefs in this country's history, that is our GMO proceedings, come in the door, like, we must assume that Chief Justice Deborah Mortimer of the Federal Court, the Chief Justice, must have been alerted when a hot brief, whenever a hot brief comes in, anything that's got Pfizer and Moderna written on it, you would bet your bottom dollar that the registry where the documents are filed would call up Deborah Mortimer and say, Chief Justice, there's a pretty hot brief here, and it's alleging that, Pfizer and Moderna products are GMOs. Somehow, Helen Roth, who's got this incredible history with Pfizer, gets given this brief when she's the last person in the world who should have been given the brief.
Absolutely the last person in the world who should have been given that brief. Could there be a better person to give it to, though, if you are a corrupted judiciary looking to back up a corrupted government? Because I can't see any other reason for what they're saying there. I can't see any other reason at all. I could be wrong. Always happy to admit I'm wrong. But that seems... Well, doesn't that seem just a little wrong to you? Now, this Chief Justice of the Federal Court makes that decision. Who makes sure that that Chief Justice is accountable for the decisions she made? Who has oversight into the process? Because I think enough of us, if you're not aware of Julian Gillespie, go and do a little bit of research. He's one of the most amazing legal minds this country has ever produced, and now retired, but has come out of retirement to fight for us. And he's been doing a great job. I've been trying to get him on the show for some time. And in fact, the aim is to get him on the show, or was to get him on the show at some stage this week. But the area that he is currently in is under a little bit of strife. And I haven't been able to raise a reply back from him at the moment. So I'm hoping that he's okay. But in the next few days or so, we hope to be able to sit down and have a conversation with Julian Gillespie and find out more about this Helen Roth. And this judge that presided over what was a pretty spectacular, well thought out, very well presented, meticulous brief against Pfizer, suggesting that there was a GMO factor involved in the spicy squirt. So all of a sudden, no grounds to hear it. Gets thrown out. Nobody wins. Well, there is a winner. Pfizer are the winner. How is it that we can't question these judges, these chief justices? Who makes them accountable? Why aren't they brought before a jury of the people every 12 months or every 2 years to review their caseload and decisions? Would that be a worthy thing? A jury of ordinary people, not learned counsel who've passed the bar, but ordinary people, the jury that they would expect to call in a jury trial. Except this jury gets to ask questions of the Chief Justices, of the High Court, of the Federal Court, of any court. These people would need probably to have a job for a year or two, because it would pretty much be a full-time job reviewing the decisions being put forward by some of these justices and judges. However, there is one very simple element that every one of us can apply to any case that were to be put in front of us. And that is, does the current result, the current justice's, judge's decision pass the pub test? Australians have a pretty accurate pub test. You know, pretty accurate. If you're looking for the general feeling of the nation, walk into a pub, buy a beer, sit down, start talking to the locals. Now, those locals are doing pub tests every day, and they will apply the same logic to the decisions put forward. Now, legal technicalities. Oh, yes, we're not going to let you put that in because of this legal technicality, a piece of bullshit that's been inserted as a loophole somewhere. Well, I suggest that these people should be able to look at those loopholes and change them. Because the loopholes are only there to protect the guilty, not help the innocent. Why can't we, when whatever's coming comes, why can't we talk about things like that, where those who are put in charge of very, very significant jobs in our community, Chief Justice, Judge, Magistrate, Police Officer, it's clear that internal reviews are not working. It's clear their internal systems are as corrupt as the political systems they're supporting. Absolutely 100% clear. Blind Freddy can see it, and any normie out there who'd like to debate me on it, please, let's do that publicly. Bring your evidence. It'll be a bit like Cooker Watch wanting to debate me on climate change and spraying in the skies. Never eventuated, because I told her how I'd start out, and that would be the evidence I would present. Where would she go from there? Now, I'm not having a go at her for that. She had the good sense to actually, and the open mind, not the good sense. She had the open mind to look at the arguments that I told her I was going to put forward, to give her time to prepare. And she realized we might be onto something here. Otherwise, we would have had that debate, I'm sure. She could have cooked me. Who knows? But she chose not to. How much has changed since the Cooker Watch crew came on and were bagging the shit out of all of us? I think, they've been, I'll be honest, I think they've been pretty light on me, because I don't give a flying whatever, and I don't give them any air. Others care a bit more. They get a bit emotional and want to be involved and have slinging matches. There's no need. A troll is a troll is a troll. You'll never change a troll, and to have a civil conversation with them. And you can agree to disagree at the end of the day, which is, interestingly enough, the kind of friendship that I have with Cooker Watch. We can always agree to disagree, and we do disagree a lot. Haven't heard from her in an age, by the way. But we can also have good conversations, and that's what we need to do. We need to have good, intelligent, unemotional conversations with the normies who are slowly but surely waking up. There is more stuff coming out in the media every day. If you have eyes to see, ears to hear. Some people are slowly peeling their eyelids back. some people's ears are slowly becoming unplugged. And I say that with mainstream media in mind, but I don't trust mainstream media. They're the ones who are letting these normies start to open their eyes a bit, because they're seeing little things in mainstream media that aren't adding up, or that really shouldn't be happening but seem to be happening, and nobody's giving a flying whatever. France is a classic example. The riots going on in the streets there, the police are doing nothing, just letting it go. Now, forgive me, but I'm pretty confident I remember seeing water cannons deployed against French farmers when they went to Paris to complain about what the EU was planning for them. Water cannon. I haven't seen any vision of water cannon in the riots that are happening in Paris, France at the moment. They may be employed, but I haven't seen of it. So it's an unpleasant thing. Dusty, you're 100% on the money. The French are very good at revolutions. I believe the French people are much stronger than the French leadership. It's always been that way, if you believe the history. The French people have always risen up and revolted against a tyrannical leader. I think there is a lot of tyranny in Emmanuel Macron. And yeah, I'm not completely sure that his wife isn't a bloke. In fact, I'm pretty confident she was a Rothschild. And a boy one at that. There's a few of those boy ones floating around. Hello, Jacinda Ardern. Got to learn to tuck yourself in a bit better when you're wearing those skirts, honey. So, Crunch, what's going on here? The mainstream media are gatekeepers and they get told what to put out. You're 100% right. They do, but some of them do try and push back. I think you're about to see Channel 7 change in many, 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 many ways. Channel 9 too, but I think Channel 7 to a much greater extent. They've got a young 38-year-old fella there who's now in charge of news and current affairs, and in a speech to his staff, they call them town halls these days, I guess, where everybody gets on a Zoom and the person does the talking. In this case, he outlined some new creation, news, current affairs area, the 7. To begin with, they're initiating a segment every night in the news for astrology. Now, you might think, well, nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with that. But the fact is, news and current affairs are a bastion of truth, supposedly. A bastion of freedom, free speech, and all those other things. They are not known for their promotion of astrology. What your star sign says for you today. And yet, they are now going to put forward a segment in every news bulletin. I believe it started potentially already. I don't know. I'm not going to be watching it. But it certainly, I believe, started in Sydney and will be rolled out everywhere else. How interesting that astrology is now forming part of the news. And if things were to change, it would be in the news. We would be expecting to see it first. Little changes, little steps to begin with. But maybe that, your day by the stars is that. Your day by the stars every night in the news could be interesting. My question is, will they be giving you the stars for tomorrow or the stars for today? Because at 6, 6:30, 7 o'clock, whatever time they do it at night, your day's pretty much done. So I'm guessing they're going to give you the story for the day, the next day. It's all so weird. But it's all a little too weird in a puzzle that has some very weird shapes, this kind of fits. So watch this space is all I'm going to say to that, because it will only be what they say and how they handle it that we'll be able to judge and maybe get a bead on what it is they're trying to do. New aginess is one world religion, JJ. There is certainly about New Age as a sort of a cult-like thing, yes. I haven't heard too many references to New Age religions now in some years. I think they just call them different things these days because the New Age thing was being pretty badly dissed at the time for a variety of reasons. But at any rate, I don't know. I haven't read My Day by the Stars in a paper or anything else in years. I used to play it, Your Day by the Stars, on a radio station. And I used to play it at 7:45, I want to say, every weekday morning, Your Day by the Stars. And they'd go through the whole... oh, okay, good on you. They'd go through the whole astrology chart, go through every star sign, and tell you what your day was going to be like, which at 8 in the morning probably wasn't a bad thing. If memory serves, I might have played it at 5 as well. But it's not much use getting it at 7 o'clock at night. Just saying. Just saying. Also, weird things in the media that you want to talk about. I have a few weird things in the media to talk about. One of the weirdest things is an interview that has come out with James Packer. Now, James has struggled in the last few years, mental health, weight, and a fairly toxic relationship with some business partners in China that by and large has led to him getting out of casinos completely, including any ownership of Crown Casino in Melbourne or any of the other Crown properties, I think, in Australia anymore. So out of casinos completely. But what's he doing? Well, he's putting on weight again. But he is a fairly big bloke. You wouldn't expect him to get down to, 85 kilos or anything like that. He was, for the first time, talking about his family. Now, we don't see or hear a great deal about James Packer's family. They have he and his former wife, Erica, have 3 children. I can't say that until today I'd ever seen them, but there they are. They look like wonderful kids. And, okay, they may have got dad's ears, but that's all right. We can live with that. And, yeah, lovely kids. What did he have to say about them? Well, Indigo, Emmanuel, and Jackson are the kids' names. And he said, in glowing terms, and I'm quoting here from an article, they grow taller, smarter, funnier, and more human every day. Does that just seem like a weird thing for a parent to say? He asks. I mean, I ask some weird things of Laura at times, I'm sure, but I wouldn't ever call her growing more human every day. I wouldn't say that because it implies that they didn't start out human. Just saying it's a bit weird. The article also quotes Packer, who says he is a Zionist, but not Jewish. Says the Middle East is one of the most difficult issues in the world. No shit, Sherlock. The most critical issue economically was reducing the wealth disparity between the haves and the have-nots, he is quoted as saying in this article. There are 26 million people here in Australia. James Packer, I think, is worth about $9 billion. He could get every one of us $1 million and not miss it. All right, there are probably 26 million reasons not to give every Australian $1 million. And why should James Packer have to pay for it? After all, his money hasn't been made out of our natural resources. His money came from family, which was invested in media in this country and others. But they still made a lot of money out of it, and we know how corrupt the media was. Is it fair to ask the billionaires to give everybody $1 million? Would it make any difference? Would it just mean that instead of paying, what are you paying for your rent in the house these days, or your mortgage? Could be paying thousands of dollars a month in rent and thousands of dollars a month in mortgage. What difference is it going to make? Don't know that it's going to make a lot. They would probably put the rent up to $10,000 a week, wouldn't they? Because even though those people would have got $1 million as well, they're greedy. We are seeing that greed exercised in the rentals, and not particularly the rentals market, although I heard yesterday that Queensland has had an increase in the availabilities market. It's gone from 1% to 1.2% availability. I think that only happened because somebody built a block of units somewhere and opened them up. They got filled up straight away, but it looked really good for a brief time when they took that snapshot while it was empty. Unbelievable. There are many talks at the moment of Sydney. I don't have the article here in front of me, but I think it was a Sky News article I was looking at yesterday that is telling Sydney-siders, prepare, you are about to be split into mini cities. Yes, they haven't said 15-minute cities, but they are making sure that the infrastructure is being put in places, especially for Western Sydney, for these 15-minute constructs to go forward. And they're going to lull you into this false sense of security by not putting the fences up to begin with. They'll get you trained to go to the places within your 15-minute area, in your little mini city. And it might be 20 minutes, one side to the other. It might even be half an hour or a little bit longer even to begin with, until they decide that the population density is getting for those areas, and they'll make another region. You won't have to in a new suburb that has half the people, and you've got to share the amenities with everybody else. That's how they will slowly narrow down the box that you live in, so that you will essentially be living in a box. Like I showed last night, the lady in the Northern Territory who wasn't allowed off her balcony for any reason, even if she had the mask on. She was allowed to go to the laundry. My God. To wash her mask? Heaven forbid. So, weird shit's going on in the world, folks. Weird shit's going on in the world. And it begins with this woman, decisions in the federal court. We need to ask questions. You need to ask questions of your politicians, folks. Ask them to inquire about this decision. Ask them to inquire strongly into her background and how she was handed a case so important to the nation that just happened to be about some of her best buddies. Katy Perry's got a new song out, or she will have tomorrow, which might mean Saturday our time. It's got something to do with women and empowering women. However, in it, to be empowered as a woman, I'll save you the cleavage shot, but I'll not save you from this. This is a shot out of the video clip. Okay, there is a cleavage shot in. There's a much bigger close-up of the cleavage that I'm saving you from. But that in her hand looks like a sex toy. Once again, this is a song for commercial release. Now she is commercializing every part of her video clips and putting out her own sex toy. However, I've seen a teaser for the video clip. I wasn't fast enough to actually screen record it, but I've seen maybe 45 seconds to a minute of this clip, and I'm sure she's pulling a butt plug out of her ass at one stage as well. The really interesting picture, and this is sort of going back to what James Packer's saying about, the kids are becoming more human every day. In the video clip, Katy Perry here shows a shot of her inflating her own body like a blow-up doll. Like a clone coming to life. Just saying. A little bit weird, don't you think? Just saying. I reckon it's a little bit weird. Maybe I'm just a little bit weird for thinking it's a little bit weird. You know, there's weird things that happen all over the place. I understand. It's just weird. And I don't know. I'm becoming my parents, which is really disappointing on many levels. Not in a bad way. It's just they were right. I was definitely wrong. I'm not trying to be a prude about this, but is there any need, given that this music is targeted directly at young girls, is there any need to be advertising dildos, vibrators, and butt plugs in your music clip? I don't remember Suzi Quatro doing any of that. I think if you'd have walked up to Suzi Quatro waving a vibrator at you, she might have beat you to death with her own bass. Just saying. But ABBA. Waterloo, Waterloo. Hang on, I'll just remove the butt plug. Waterloo. Shania Twain. Something a little more recent. She got a vibrator she's selling? I don't know. When did selling sex toys to teenagers become okay? Just, yeah. So if you've got kids around that age group, they're going to love that song. I haven't got the lyrics, but I will have them for you by the time that song is hitting the shelves, I hope. And it'll be very interesting to do a run through of those lyrics, I think. If you're into going through songs and reading lyrics, I urge you, if you're a Rolling Stones fan, to go and check out the lyrics, like really read them while you're listening to the song for Sympathy for the Devil. It's a very interesting song. Very, very interesting song. All right, let's dig back into the chat. What's going on in here? Yeah. Okay, Neville, sounds like you've got a bit of catching up to do. Katy Perry could well be, and in most cases in the music industry, yes. I think you should go to YouTube, look up a guy called Tom McDonald, and he has a song called Clones, or if you just type in Tom McDonald Clones, you'll find that song. It's a couple of years old now, but get the lyrics to that and have a listen to it, and it describes perfectly what the global music industry is. Perfectly. Okay. Sodom and Gomorrah. You are 100% right, DM. We are in Sodom and Gomorrah. And what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah? Do you know the biblical story, folks? I can't say I do terribly well, but I think I can paraphrase it. Sodom and Gomorrah were two places where there were no laws, there were no anything. Okay. I don't know. Oh, did that come back okay? God sent messages outlining that if things didn't change, he would be forced to do something fairly significant. Nothing changed. In fact, things only got worse, more deplorable, more disgusting, more deviant in every way, shape, and form. And that's what we are seeing now with the sexualization of our children, with these attempts to legalize pedophilia, minor attracted persons. And like Ricardo, I am disgusted that the LBGTQABCFG fuck you group are not coming out and shunning the idea that these minor attracted people should be lumbered in with their little alphabet soup of sickness. Because a lot of it is mental health issues for some of these people, I think. A lot of it. A lot of it is brainwashing. A lot of it is emotional trauma. A lot of it is just wanting to be special. And some of it, I guess, is for real. But when kids in primary school are taught words like sexual reassignment surgery, and then when they get to high school, they are educated on it and how it's their right. And it doesn't matter what your mummy and your daddy say. You've got a counselor in the school with blue hair, bone through a nose and balls between her legs, who's saying it's all okay. You'll be fine. We'll look after you. Here, go and get your boobs chopped off. Here, go and get your dick lopped off. We'll take you to the doctors who'll look after you. And these horrible bastards are hiding in the schools you send your kids to. I've got nothing against the gay and lesbian community. Nothing at all. At least they know what sex they are. But all the other freaks that have come in on the side, and now all the players who've come in with the freaks, are a danger to society. And the simple fact that the bulk of the gay and lesbian community are not standing up and saying we refuse to accept minor attracted anything into our groups, you lose my respect and the respect of many, many Australians who until now couldn't have really given a shit what you do, who you do it with, and when you do it. But now, if you're going to support pedophiles, well then yes, I think you're going to attract a lot of homosexual, not homosexual, a lot of straight attention from a lot of straight people who couldn't care less about anything in your private life. But now, as a group, these groups that represent your communities, these LGBTQ messes, where are you in those groups? If you agree, like me, that minor attracted people should probably be put up against a wall and shot rather than accepted into a community, then why aren't you changing the leadership of those groups? I'm not advocating violence against people. Pedophiles, if found guilty, I believe, because of the damage they cause to young minds and bodies, and the simple fact that they actually believe it's okay to do it, cannot be rehabilitated. I can see no reason why your tax dollars or mine should go towards funding them in an existence in a jail where they're going to be protected, pampered by other jail standards, and left to live a life. Okay, it won't be a great life, but it'll be nothing like the damaged life that they've left behind on the child or children that they have harmed while they molested them. Do not say they loved them. They hurt them, made them bleed, bruised them, internally and externally. That is the brutal reality of what you, the gay and lesbian, LGBT, AB, whatever society, are accepting. Now, if your community isn't accepting of these pedophiles being given the umbrella protection of your organization and your area, then you need to get into the organization's head. The groups that are saying, yeah, that's okay. Bring the pedophiles in here. We'll wrap a protective arm around them because we are the blue-haired, bone-nosed freaks, and we can do that. You are going to create a schism in this community that you will not survive. The general public will never accept pedophiles, will never accept minor attracted persons are okay. If they do, it's time we got off this one, good Lord, because we truly are in Sodom and Gomorrah. But the good Lord had a way of fixing that. In the time of Sodom and Gomorrah, he sent a flood. Before the flood, he sent a message to a man named Noah to build an ark. Noah did this and went to try and save the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. He was bashed, nearly killed, and returned home looking after the animals. Built the ark. We know the rest of the story. Every day, more and more of that story appears truer and truer to me with the things that we are seeing. Every day there is news that our lives are going to change in ways we cannot imagine. That could be because our good Lord comes back to save us from what's going to happen. But he won't be saving everybody. I suspect there might be a federal court judge who's going to have a fairly torrid argument on her hands trying to get into the pearly gates. Yep, Sodom and Gomorrah isn't far from what we are, DM. And that to me is probably one of the most disgusting things about all of this. And that we see so many people turning a blind eye to it in the media, in politics. Where are our senses? Do you remember when you couldn't say words like bum and bloody? All right? Today, you can have a film clip with a vibrator and a butt plug in it, essentially advertising them. And like I say, I've only seen 45 seconds of this thing. So God knows what the full 3.5, 4 minutes is going to be like. But, yeah. What the? Noah is a story with no proof. Maybe you need to go and have a look at mud floods. That might help you out. What the? You could also go and have a bit of an explore around what they found not far from Mount Ararat. And if you have a look, if you're a Telegrammer, you can go into Telegram and you might find a video that claims to be showing you a finger bone recovered from the grave or located in the area where Noah and his wife and others were meant to be buried. A very sacred place, and it was a crypt that was opened. This was in Turkey, in case you don't know where Mount Ararat is. And they've got a thumb bone and a finger bone that they've shown publicly. The finger bone is beside my hand and would go this high above my hand. It is that long, like it's a huge finger. The thumb bone, this bit, right, that bit, is this big. It's huge, absolutely huge. People often think, how could Noah have built an ark? Something that big, that huge. How would they cut down all the trees? How would they do all that? Maybe that's a story for another night. We've gone nearly an hour, and I'm not going to go and get into the Bible tonight anyway. But have a think about it. If Noah's story is real, how would they have got trees, built this thing, and been able to shift huge amounts of earth, dirt, rubbish, animals, everything? Have a think about it. And then maybe on another night, we might have a chat about that too. Mud floods are a very, very interesting topic. And I've never heard of Tartary. Doing a bit of a dive into Tartary. Send you a link to a very interesting, I guess you'd call it a documentary, that might enlighten you a great deal to some of the things hidden from us, because it sounds like you either don't believe they've been hidden, and that is simply because you haven't been shown any evidence that they've been hidden, or if you have, you've come up with it in your mind to excuse that, make an excuse for it, that they're not, that's not real. People do that, especially the brainwashed ones. But eventually, and it comes down to what I was saying earlier about approaching something with an open mind. It is no skin off my nose whether you believe Noah was alive or the story of Noah's Ark out of the Bible or not. I believe it. That's all that matters to me. I've seen enough evidence now to really believe it. I've seen evidence of giants on this earth, and I continue to see evidence hidden in plain sight. But you have to go down a few rabbit holes to be able to see it, to understand what it is that you might be looking at. Ancient trees is another wonderful rabbit hole you might want to join. Or to find times in our history where there have been massive depopulation events, massive population events around the globe. And the history, believe it or not, is in the ground. In the ground. If you go and see some of the ancient, particularly ancient constructions that are now rising from the sands of the Sahara and other deserts in the world, you would know that when they were built in the 10s, 11s, 1200s, there was no technology available that could build something like this. There were no masons or stonemasons or artisans who could create anything like that which is being uncovered now in different parts of the world. So go and have a look. There's plenty there to see. You don't have to believe it. I don't care if you don't. Please come back with a reason why I can't believe it. Show me evidence why I've been suckered. Because, and I'm happy to believe I've been suckered, but I can't see it. So I would appreciate the heads up if I have been, because I don't like being suckered. I know there are plenty of excuses, but I'm not interested in excuses. I'm interested in evidence. So I can show you yours, or show you mine if you'll show me yours, so to speak. And maybe out of that conversation, not only will a little bit of education ensue both ways, but possibly a friendship. Who knows? Stranger things have happened. Although, trust me, I'll never be a friend of the dickheads on the road.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!